Okay, so I wanted to do Boiler Mechanic World News Geopolitics map again. This time I'm using Google Maps because it's free, and the Scribble maps, I ran out of free maps, and that kind of put a damper on things, among other things. Uh, so I'm going to do Google Maps. I can save as many maps as I want. Um, as we can see, we got the. It lets me draw on the map at least, so I can put a Z over Ukraine. Uh, yeah, so let's do this. I just started. I just filled in. This is for the last week, and I just filled this in today, just to get started with some stories that I remember happening, and some stories that I just read today. So, first story I'm going to go with in my sort of monologue story, I guess, is going to be Germany. So, Germany has had. Uh, First, they've had farmer protests. Now, the farmer protests, a lot of people may have heard about, have to do with Germany's budget is fucked up right now because Germany's economy is fucked up, and they decided we're going to cut some expenses, and one of the expenses that the German government chose to cut were farmers' subsidies. Not that I'm a fan of farmer subsidies in the first place, but the farmers are really pissed off there over there in Germany, and they're doing like this Canadian trucker style protest. And as a matter of fact, I think Monday the farmers rolled up in their tractors and blocked a bunch of roads and all this. And then, Thursday, I believe it was, the truckers came in and did the same thing. So basically, they're taking after the Canadian trucker protest. And overall, it's been successful from what I hear. One thing that's really scared the fuck out of German politicians, the establishment people, is that polling has shown that the vast majority of people in Germany actually agree with the truckers and support the farmers and truckers and support the protest. And I think that's caused quite a bit of panic among them, among the establishment politicians. I mean, the current German government has some of the lowest approval numbers of any government since the Bundesrepublik began in the 40s and 50s. So they're really looking bad right now. Chancellor Scholz is among one of the has some of the lowest approval numbers of any chancellor in history. And it all has to do with the fact that, let me go use the restroom real quick and I'll continue that thought. Yeah, so all of the problems in Germany that are happening have to do with the fact that the economy is tanking due to Germany going along with the Americans in their economic war against Russia. And really all of Europe, as we know, has been doing this. And it's been really devastating for Germany's economy. Germany depended on Russian energy for its robust manufacturing sector more than probably, I guess, any other country in Germany, definitely. And it's really fucked up the margins of German manufacturers, and it's just devastated the German economy. I mean, I think Germany at one point had a purchasing manager index of in the 30s, which is unheard of. It's been a real disaster, and none of the news articles on mainstream news will ever mention that. They'll always say, "Yeah, Germany is having economic problems, yada yada yada," but they'll never ever mention the fact that it all stems from Germany sanctioning Russia and cutting themselves off from the natural gas that they needed to power the German economy. And everybody's like, oh, well, they can just get the natural gas from elsewhere. Sure, they can, at 2, 3, or even 4 times the price. Now, if you're a factory owner and you have to pay 4 times or 3 times or even 2 times more for energy, especially in an energy intensive sort of business like manufacturing, If you have to do that, you're going out of business. Okay, you just can't keep up with that. You got the margins. You don't have. Nobody has margins like that. Okay, nobody in the private sector anyway, unless you're like an American medical equipment company. Then you have stupid margins. But that's a whole different story. So that's what's really going on here is that Germany's falling apart because they went along with the sanctions when they shouldn't have. They didn't have to. But the reality is this is that Germany and Japan for that matter are puppet governments. They're client states of the United States, okay? Um, they don't have any sovereignty over there. At one point, even in the 70s, Germany had more independence than it does now. Back in the 70s, Germany started trading with energy with for energy with the Soviet Union. Okay, that was back in the depths of the Cold War. But now in 2020s, Germany is here cutting themselves off from Russian oil and Russian gas, and that's where all these problems stem from. So these trucker protests were a success. Um, at the same time, then you start hearing about these. This came out of nowhere. Then you start hearing about these far right protests against the far right in Germany. Immediately, as soon as I heard about this, I was like, wait, the trucker protests are going on. The farmers protests are going on, and all of a sudden I hear about this. All right, and of course I'm not there, so I don't have that on the ground viewpoint. But I'm like, first thing that comes in my mind is this is astroturfed. This is not organic, and sure enough, I guess the impetus behind this, so they say, I guess over the last few days, there's been significant protests in places like Hamburg and Frankfurt. I think they said in Hamburg there were 50,000 people, and the police had to call off the protest due to safety concerns. And then in Frankfurt, they say there were maybe 35,000 people. That's significant. And I'm like, where did these come from? And how is it that all of a sudden you got tens of thousands of people just showing up to some protest? What's going on? And supposedly, according to what they're saying here, it has to do with this investigative report by this magazine. It's called, I guess it's a non-profit investigative journalism thing. That is, I've looked into the history. They definitely don't like the Alternative for Deutschland, which is the right-wing party. And they've done some hit pieces on them before, so they got an issue with them. And there's this article here about they had a secret meeting back in November where people of the far right, including some members of the Alternative for Deutschland party, which is the big right-wing party in Germany, they had this meeting, and apparently, allegedly, they were discussing how to. Basically, they had something called remigration, where they would, they're talking about getting all the immigrants out of Germany, and they had three different steps. And the last step, first they said we're going to get rid of all the illegals. Then they said they're going to get rid of all of the visa holders and the legal immigrants. And then they said they're, according to this, okay, and I'm going to tell you why this is a little iffy here in a minute, but. And then they said the final step of the plan is to actually remigrate German citizens who are foreign born. All right. So apparently they say in this article that was discussed, and I'm just like, I don't know. Let's look at this. So they have this article here, and they're writing it like a screenplay. So it's so over the top. Prologue, behind the scenes, the cast. Here's the cast of the people that were there. Okay. Scene 1, a lakeside hotel. And they're in the hotel. Oh, we got pictures of them there. First of all, there's nobody. You got a personal aide to the party leader who could be just her fucking laundry person for all we know. I guess there's a MP that showed up there, and then really nobody else of any note. One MP and one random personal aide to the hot lesbian chick who's the party leader. Then you got the Murray clan, the Murray clan, and you got these. I guess they're supposed to be anti-immigration people. It's not a big list of people. If you look at this, you got 4, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, maybe 20, maybe 25 people altogether. Is that it in this crazy you know, super this party of influential people? There's a lot of red flags with this article. I mean, they don't actually do any quote. The quote, the actual quoting of people is a bit like, you know, they do this thing where they say like they quote this guy. This guy is saying, they quote foreigners and then they fill in the conversation, and then they do another quote. He said reverse settlement. Then they fill in the conversation. They do this thing. Oh, they quote this. So it's basically like a badly overly edited video. You know, they're just taking bits and pieces and they're filling in the conversation. So I don't trust this article. I was looking at the finances, and it's all financed by like Green Party shit and European Union, you know, people, and it's all, you know, it's definitely a hit piece, right? So I don't know what to think about this. I'm not saying it's not true. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't take this seriously unless I saw confirmation that this actually happened and that these things were said. Because all we have here are some pictures, a very long, over-the-top theatrical article, and really, I don't see anything really, you know, I want to hear maybe audio or something, or maybe a document from the meeting or something, you know, more than just what I'm seeing here. All right, none of this is really verifiable. Or it's very difficult to verify. And so apparently this article was the impetus behind these protests going on in the last couple days against the far right. So none of this seems organic to me. This all seems AstroTurf to me. Germans are generally pretty gullible people, so it wouldn't surprise me that, you know, 50,000 people saw this article and they're like, oh mein Gott, you know, wir müssen democracy. I forgot. I don't know. I can't even speak German well enough on the fly. But we must save democracy. You know, we have to block the AfD now. We have to block a political party in order to save democracy. Where have you heard that before? So seems rather AstroTurf to me, but it's going to be interesting. You know, there's been talk behind the scenes of actually banning this political party that's been gaining in the polls in a big way in the last year or so, the Alternative for Deutschland. And here we have this hit piece coming out right here, which sparks these protests against the far right, which conveniently takes attention away from the farmers' protests. So we have like a whole cocktail soup of shenanigans going on here. And the Germans, you know, like I said, they're a little bit too gullible. So, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, I could see alternative for Germany party actually getting banned. I can see that happening. I can see the German people going along with it. Trust me, I wouldn't put that past them. So I hope not. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of Alternative for Germany. I don't care much about German politics. I don't even care about American politics. I mean, American politics makes you fucking dumber, even just paying attention to it. It just kills your brain cells. It's so low IQ. It's just drooling boomer retards watching cable news, repeating slogans, kids, and it's just I can't handle any of these politics. But it's going to be interesting to see if the Germans actually, fall for this grift going on. And it kind it's unfortunate that they're probably going to forget that there ever were any farmers protests. As we can see here, the German government, what is this? Get rid of this. What is this shit? I'm trying to read this and it won't get out of here. I don't know. Now I'm blocked. It said here that the German government refused the demands of the protesters, the farmers, and so the farmers said, "Okay, we're going to come back out next week." And so at the same time, you have these anti-far right protests that spring up out of thin air, driven by an article by this really, this article, which is just not credible to me. Okay, so they had actual more evidence, and like, oh, members of the Alternative for Deutschland were there. Okay, one party, a minister of parliament was there, whoever he is, and a fucking personal assistant who could be, Alice's ass wiper for all we know. Who knows who that was? And then these whoever these are no names, and one minister of parliament. So they're trying to link this meeting to the Alternative for Deutschland, and what they want is they want the people behind this article and the people that are pushing this article into the population and firing up these protests. They want the party banned. Okay, these are establishment people who just want a rival political party banned, and if the Germans go along with this, it wouldn't surprise me. It would be very unfortunate. You should never ban a political party. If a political party is so bad, if they have such bad ideas, then they should lose on the merits. Okay, so that's just the way it is. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, didn't the Weimar Republic, they tried to ban the Nazi Party, and how well did that work out? That didn't work at all. They tried to ban them. That didn't work. So really ridiculous. If I'm correct, I don't know. I believe that in the Weimar Republic they actually banned the Nazi Party, and didn't stop. And the Nazi Party just grew bigger as a result. That doesn't work. So that would be a big mistake overall. So just to go through that, so that's my little monologue on what's going on in Germany. Gaza, there's still a genocide going on. 16,000 just women and children killed, according to the UN. We had today, basically, I guess earlier today, early this morning, Israel bombed some building in Damascus. They say it was a residential building. So that happened. Let me close all these other articles. Yeah, so apparently this is from the state news of Syria, and they're saying that a residential building was bombed by the Israelis and civilians died, and that's all we're getting. At the same time, Russia, not too long after that, says they're going to start patrolling the Golan Heights area. So they're going to start patrolling this area between Iraq and Syria. So they're going to start patrolling this and, I guess, preventing Israeli airplanes from reaching Damascus. So now Russia is actually stepping in directly and saying, we're not going to let you pass through here, apparently. I guess that's what they're saying. So that's a big development in the situation in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Iraqi PM, again, just a few weeks ago, the prime minister said that the United States has got to leave Iraq. And then we had all of the Iranian strikes on the basically American spy base and Israeli spy base in northern Iraq. And after all of that, now we have the Iraqi prime minister again saying, "Look, U.S., you've got to leave Iraq." And they're probably concerned about starting another. They're probably concerned about their diplomatic relationship with Iran, and these all of this fighting on their territory between the United States and Israel and Iran is going to actually draw the Iraqis into the wider conflict, and they probably want no part of that. I mean, they've been, they were destroyed by the war, the United States war. At this point, I don't think Iraqis have any taste for war. Unlike stupid Americans and stupid Europeans, they know better. So they're probably just like, dude, get the fuck out. We don't want to be a part of this at all. So that's probably what's going on there. So what else? So this is going to be not a very well detailed map. So this was interesting. So earlier this week, just to recall, we had this exchange of fire between Pakistan and Iran. And what was interesting about it is both Pakistan and Iran were hitting the same target. Essentially, they were hitting the Baluchis in Baluchistan. And the Baluchis, I first heard about from my dad, the intelligence psyops guy, back in the 90s. He used to talk about the Baluchis, and apparently, he had a lot. Well, from what I remember, he had a lot to say about the Baluchis. And I mean, if anything else, the United States was gathering a lot of information on the Baluchis. Which means it wouldn't surprise me if we had assets there. But all I remember is my dad talking about them and how they were just like badasses or whatever. So he talked about them. So the Iranians hit a Baluchi hideout on the Pakistan side, and the Pakistanis hit a Baluchi hideout on the Iranian side. So they're both targeting the same group of people, each accusing the other of using those people as proxies to attack the other. So pretty wild. Most likely also the United States is in the mix there, and Israel is in the mix there too. But like I said, all I can tell you is my dad used to talk about them. He said, I remember an analyst, and his specialty was the Baluchi people, and he used to just tell me about it. About the Baluchi society and all that. So that was interesting. Maybe the United States called both of them up and said like, "Hey, you're hitting our people. Stop that." Although I doubt Iran would care, but Pakistan would. Last week we had, I guess there were military naval exercises, big naval exercises right around here. With Japan, the United States, and South Korea doing joint naval exercises. And in response to that, North Korea did an underwater nuclear test. So I guess they detonated a nuclear device underwater. It doesn't really say what type of device or anything. It just said did a nuclear test underwater. So that was apparently in response to the naval drills. So, things continue to be tense over there. Maybe South Korea will be the next Ukraine. Who's going to be the next Ukraine? Is it going to be South Korea? Is it going to be Taiwan? Is it going to be Japan? Who knows? Who knows who the next Ukraine is going to be? Speaking of Ukraine, I forgot to bring this up. There's a largest NATO drills since the Cold War are being launched this week. And this has a lot of people wondering here. So they're right on the border of Poland, and that's been common for NATO to hold drills there, to antagonize the Russians. The Russians do the same thing on their borders. But a lot of people are speculating that maybe that maybe this is gonna be a pretense for NATO to come in and occupy Western Ukraine. It's to prevent the Russians from taking over all of Ukraine. I just think it's a little early for that. I don't think that, the collapse of... It doesn't seem like the collapse of the Ukrainian regime is imminent. So I don't see why they would, be in a hurry to occupy Western Ukraine. That'll probably be a last-ditch effort when the Zelensky regime collapses. Maybe then, NATO will occupy Western Ukraine in order to prevent the Russians from, taking over all of Ukraine. That's a possibility. And I'm sure as far as the Russians are concerned, they'll say, hey, you can have Western Ukraine. We don't want it. That's what the Russians are going to say. What else happened? There's this situation. What's going on here? This was the IMF. Yeah, so IMF is in talks with the Egyptian regime for a $3 billion loan. And I found that interesting just because of the context of the Gaza war in the Middle East, and wondering what kind of the carrot is the $3 billion. I wonder what the stick is going to be. So we'll see what they try to get out of the Egyptians. I mean, certainly they're not. The Egyptians have ruled out allowing the Israelis to push all the residents of Gaza into Sinai Peninsula. So that's out of the question. So I'm just wondering what kind of blackmail the IMF is going to try to pull on Egypt. We'll see. And Egypt will eat the Sisi is a corrupt guy anyway, so it won't take much to blackmail him, I'm sure. There were talks in Uganda, in this city in Uganda, and the talks, there was like multilateral talks regarding this situation between Ethiopia and Somalia. So apparently Ethiopia is going to recognize a breakaway part of Somalia. I don't know which breakaway part, but maybe it's up here somewhere. It's Somaliland apparently. So I think it's up this section up here of Somalia at a line or shape. So I think it's going to be this this area here, something like that. I don't know for sure, but this area is kind of like, I guess this area is breaking away from the main government of Somalia, and they call themselves Somaliland, and they want to, apparently Ethiopia wants to recognize them as an independent country if they allow them access to the Red Sea or to the Gulf of Aden, Now, as we know, this is where all of the stuff is going on right now with Yemen. Yemen's attacking ships over here, basically stopping the flow of traffic through the Red Sea, and thus the Suez Canal, disrupting shipping. So this has been a point of contention. All of this area has been a big strategic interest point. Djibouti is friendly to the Russians and the Chinese, I believe. Eritrea is favorable to the more to the west. Okay. And Ethiopia has been landlocked. Actually, Eritrea and Djibouti used to be part of Ethiopia. But the thing about it is Ethiopia has always been traditionally friendly towards Russia and China, going way back. And a lot of people think that, the independence of Eritrea and Djibouti were orchestrated in order to get that very, very pivotal coastline from Ethiopia. So this is a very important region, and Somalia has already threatened to go to war with, I believe, Ethiopia if Ethiopia builds a port in Somaliland and recognizes Somaliland. So I don't know exactly what that would entail. But needless to say, there were diplomatic talks in this city in Uganda recently where everybody except Ethiopia was invited. I guess, or Ethiopia didn't go. They said they were notified too late. So they're having basically diplomatic talks without the main party that they need to talk to, which that's kind of been how the United States has been dealing with the Ukraine-Russia war. They're like, the United States has these peace talks, in different places, Saudi Arabia, wherever, and they invite everybody except the Russians. And so it seems like that's some bullshit they're doing here. So you can't be serious about peace talks if you don't invite the person, the main party of the that you're concerned with. So that's what's going on there. And is that it? Oh yeah, this is a good one. I like this one. So basically, this came out today. Um, a judge condemns FBI while ordering the release of a man in the Newburgh 4 case. So apparently, like 10 years ago, these guys were arrested and convicted on terrorism charges. And apparently it was an entrapment scheme. Apparently the FBI created the whole thing and tricked these guys into doing it. And the judge finally released the last guy today. And he was pissed off, and he said, I can't believe the FBI did this. You know, the guy was just a dumbass who fell for a petty criminal and a dumbass, and the FBI manipulated him into getting involved in a terrorism plot. So this is the latest entrapment case to fall apart. And the guy spent over a decade in jail for basically getting entrapped by the FBI. So really fucked up situation, but you know, anybody who understands how the FBI really works is not surprised. And let's see, we had this earlier this week, which I found interesting. This guy, the former president of Guatemala, who just lost against whoever the other guy is, he's been banned from entering the United States due to significant corruption. And I just don't buy that. I don't buy that they're pissed off with him over corruption. I just don't buy that. Now, I was looking into this guy, and he did sign a deal with Russia during COVID to buy the Russian COVID vaccine. I'm sure that rankled a lot of feathers in Washington. So I don't know what this guy's deal is or why they hate him so much, but the United States government doesn't care if people are corrupt. They just don't. So that's bullshit. So why they hate him? Maybe he was a little bit too friendly to Russia and China is what I'm thinking. I don't know. So that is it. I think I covered everything in this short one, and we'll try and maintain this and keep it going every week, every night. I'll do like a half an hour, 45 minutes, put down a couple articles, and leave it at that. And hopefully I can maintain this. I enjoy it. I am out.